All right. It is Thursday. This time I actually remembered to hit go live. If anyone was here last week, we started the show. I went through the intro. I started talking. I see chat, like I see comments coming in, and I'm like, saying hello to everyone. And we're about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes in, and Ben is like, he messages me on the private chat and is like, I'm pretty sure we're not live.
We
And
started in a
so,
different galaxy, guys. It's
yeah,
our apology. Obviously, it's Josh's fault. If there's anything wrong with the stream ever, like you see, like an animal walks through the screen, like that digital animal in episode 4, that's always his fault, not mine. Okay.
I was running it. It's completely my fault. And today I was I was telling Ben before we got started here. I was running in to my kitchen to grab my drink and I just fell right on my face. So I don't know what's going on with me recently, but I appreciate everyone showing up on Thursday, even if we are falling apart at the seams. Welcome to another week, another episode of the Book of Boba Fett. We're going to talk about, I think we also have to talk a little bit about some game rumors, some game confirmations. We got some trailers today, as well as dates for Lego. We also have some, mild High Republic items, and of course, some drama as always. I am very excited. Now, I will say, as we get started here, unfortunately,
Can I add
Jimmy,
something very quickly and just give everybody a chance to applaud Mr. On High here? Guys, he literally breaks his neck for you, okay? To get these live streams going, he goes through this. He will go to a war zone to make sure we stream on time if possible.
I'm risking my life. What I was going to say is we got started here. Jimmy, unfortunately, could not make it today. He had some personal things to attend to, but he will be back hopefully next week. Wish him well. Send him your positive thoughts on Twitter, on YouTube, etc. We do appreciate him. We do miss him for the second week in a row, but hopefully we'll be returning here to the game soon. But we will chug on the original 2. Just Ben and I, as I'm playing with.
I like how you brought it up. I feel special now.
That's
okay?
right.
You see the redness on my shirt? I feel like I'm highlighted today.
Hey, there is going to be some red to talk about because we do have some little bit of drama. I'd say mild drama, light drama to talk about. I pulled up Nick's comments here about the High Republic being like Game of Thrones because no one is safe. No spoilers, but it is true.
Whoa, guys, just be careful, please. I will discontinue this stream if I hear any rumors on the Fallen Star. I'm behind. I'm one of these guilty as charged guys. I know you're just posted your review today, right?
Yeah, Jimmy and I sat down and we literally talked about it for like 40 minutes. It's a long review out there. We spend the first couple minutes spoiler free about the first 5-6 minutes, and then we just talk about the book in total. So yes, it is out there now for folks to watch. So I did just wrap up.
Gotcha.
I liked it. Spoiler alert. I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot. A lot of things.
Right. Can you just give me like the most minor spoiler possible from the 3 adult books that we got so far? Would you say, where does this one sit?
I've gone back and forth on this, and I want to do a tier list, and I'm sure the chat would love to see that too. I want to do a tier list of all the High Republic books after Midnight Horizon comes out next month. So like when the phase 1 is fully wrapped, like let's look at the books and I'll kind of rank them where I think they fall. This one to me, now again, it's all preference. Everyone here knows I liked this one better than Rising Storm. For me, it was better than Rising Storm. I don't know if Light of the Jedi is better or not. I kind of go back and forth, right? Because I really appreciate Light of the Jedi for what it did. It set out to kind of spin off this universe. There were moments of the story I like better. It's a darker tale. That's not a spoiler. You can tell by the cover art. Yeah. It's a darker story, which tends to gravitate towards my sensibilities. I like darker stories. So it had that going for it. But Light of the Jedi I thought was really well constructed as well. So I go back and forth, but it's very good. It's definitely in the top 3 or 4 of the High Republic books we've had so far, among all age groups easily.
Gotcha.
So. As I'm drinking this coffee from, I don't know if you guys can see here, I have this Mando and Grogu mug here.
Oh yeah, we've seen the cup on the last stream, right?
I thought so. This thing is gigantic, though. I don't think people realize like you could fit a gallon of milk in here. It's just absolutely crazy. Now, today is Thursday. That means yesterday we had the new Book of Boba Fett. I see folks in chat talking about it already, I should say. I made a video earlier in the week talking about kind of defending. I called it in defense of the Book of Boba Fett, right?
Okay.
There are legit criticisms and complaints to be had about the Book of Boba Fett. I think we both agree, and I'm sure you've said some in your reviews. You've said some on this stream, and I haven't watched your most recent review yet, but I'm sure you might have some for this episode as well. But for me, I felt like some folks, their criticism was the kind of classic looking for something to complain about, right? We're only 3 episodes in. There's maybe story beats that aren't working yet. There's things that they want to see they haven't seen yet. And my message was kind of like, let's calm down and wait. Let's see here.
It's a genre. I gotta add here to what you were saying. There's a genre of YouTube channels and people who know exactly what they're doing. They just want to push buttons. They want to look, like you said, if you come into something with a bias that you're gonna hate it, you're obviously gonna find something you're gonna dislike, and you just want to take that further. And on YouTube, to get yourself clicks, you're gonna push buttons and tell people how horrible the show is.
And I was seeing a lot of that, where people who openly admitted to not watching the show were talking about how Boba Fett had been wussified and Disney-fied. And I kind of pushed back because my personal opinion on the first 3 episodes was Boba Fett was in no way soft. I didn't feel like he was soft. I felt like, yeah, he wasn't maybe as cold or as I'm trying to think the correct word, maybe as strong silent type as you might have expected, given his appearance in the Empire Strikes Back: Return of the Jedi. But I felt like what they were trying to do is show you, hey, he's gone through these traumatic experiences. He's, we're getting these back to tank flashbacks where you're seeing his growth and why he might have a kind of a new perspective. And then I also called out in the video something I think gets lost, which is, Django was not this cold-blooded killer. Jango Fett, right? His father was not.
Yeah.
In fact, he wanted a clone to raise as a son, which to me is very telling of the individual of Jango Fett, right? And so Boba had a father who loved him and was training him and cared for him. And you see that in the flashbacks when he's in Kamino watching his father fly away. He loved his father. He had some support system there. And so obviously with the death of his father, he was kind of forced to grow up on his own in the streets and had, ran with bounty hunting crews, etc. And I had those really aggressive faces. But I don't think he was raised to be a faceless killer kind of thing, right? A hard, cold killer. I think there was room there. That was kind of one of the points I made. Now, I say all that. You guys can watch that full video and hear kind of my thoughts. We'll get into it more, because I think the 4th episode, Book of Boba Fett, kind of legitimized a lot of my opinions. It kind of came to the forefront. Like, there were specific lines of dialogue where he was like, I'm not being a bounty hunter because frankly, all these other guys are a bunch of idiots and I could do it better. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm like. That to me makes sense, right? He's not like, oh, I don't really like being a bounty hunter anymore because I think that, all people should be treated equal. It's like, no, like, these guys are a bunch of morons. They do it inefficiently. They get people killed. I'm tired of working for them. Like, I'm just going to do this thing myself and do it better. And I was like, yeah, that was to me. And you saw a lot of the reaction from major Star Wars creators and fans saying, oh, this is more like the Boba I know about this episode. I mean, I saw Star Wars Theory, and his Instagram was like, I love this. This feels like the Boba Fett I know kind of thing. And
which I'm actually quite surprised by. I thought Theory would be one of the guys like taking it apart, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because what I like about him, sorry to interrupt, he is, I personally feel he's fair, but he is vocal. He doesn't hold back. And I like that.
Absolutely. But, yesterday he was like, hey, this feels more like the Boba I expected. And I agree. And let's talk about Anthony's comment right here before I turn over to you, Timeline. I think it's interesting. The first criticism here, he points to the director, Robert Rodriguez, who never should have described it as all killer, no filler. That's true. That's a bad characterization of the show. It is actually a slow.
Yeah, it's not a good sell.
It isn't. In the first 3 episodes, for certain, now I know where we're going here, right? It seems like the back to tank flashbacks are over. It is now these last 3 episodes are going to be, it's war, right? War of the underworld, which, based on the ending, there's a certain motif at the end we'll get into, which we think we're going to get some characters making appearances. We're starting to expand our gang. Unsurprisingly, Chrysanthemum seems to be part of that. I think we all knew that was coming. But now it seems like we're going to get those all killer, no filler episodes. We just took over half the show to get there. But I thought last night's episode, to get to the central review, I thought last night's episode was really solid. I thought it was actually very well executed. I thought there were some moments that were a little silly to me, but I really enjoyed the vibe. I continue to enjoy the characters, specifically Tamara Morrison. I think his acting continues to really make the show so watchable. Like, regardless how you feel, you just watch it for him. Even if you don't like anything about the story, I find him to be so charismatic in the role. You'll have a good time. So my overall impression is really solid episode. It's moving the direction I think fans expected. And I think it kind of silenced a little bit of the messaging, which was, Boba's this softy and he's not trying to do anything. And he's just like, it's like, I think the show was doing a slower buildup than maybe we anticipated. We'll get into specifics. What were your thoughts on the episode timeline for those who haven't watched your video? Give it to me.
Yeah. And guys, during this discussion, I will be treading on some sacred ground in regards to prequels because I will be making some comparisons. And just please be aware, it's just an opinion of one guy.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get you emotional or rattle you guys or crap on something that you enjoy. Obviously, we're just sharing thoughts here, sharing opinions. All of us are fans, right? We're talking about the show that we're looking forward to. I thought this was the weakest episode, and it basically confirmed what I suspected the show was going to be. Every time I go into something new in regards to Star Wars or anything else, I don't look for things that could possibly cause issues or nitpick. I'm not a professional reviewer by any stretch of imagination. I don't sit there, with a notebook trying to figure out what makes or breaks this episode as I watch it. I watch it very unplugged. I'm an artist. I have my intuitive side of the brain far more active than the rational intellectual side. And I like to absorb, see what my general reaction is, what's the first gut instinct is towards this thing. I like it. I dislike it. I'm somewhere in the middle, right?
Right.
With this episode, I watched it in a very like-minded fashion, and I just didn't like it. Nothing stuck. And it being the half midpoint of the episode of the season, it kind of confirmed to me what this show was going to be all about. And it feels very unfocused. It feels like it tries to do a bit too many things, and because it doesn't spend enough time with each one, it feels all over the place. My biggest gripe, we'll get to the details about this episode, obviously, but my biggest gripe is that I felt this episode drenched me in that prequel era feel that I got from the movies. When I was coming into theaters watching them, nobody in their right mind pays for a ticket to go and watch something they're going to dislike, right? We'll want to like Star Wars. Josh, I can't tell you how excited I was for the Phantom Menace episode 1. But the feeling I got from it, I was very deflated. I'm like, oh man, this is not really up my alley. And watching this episode once again, I'm like, it's just some parts of it. Guys, this is gonna sound a little bit harsh. It's just embarrassingly bad. It's even for a show that you're not supposed to take seriously, that you're supposed to unplug and whatever, let's just have our entertainment. Even by those standards, I'm like, this is still Star Wars? This is Disney? Come on, man. Are you serious? That was to underline my impression.
And
come on,
dude. We'll get into it as we go through the specifics. I obviously disagree. I actually think this episode is probably better than the first and the third. I think there's and I think
you're obviously wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, end of the episode now. So I think, for me, this episode I think had some strong moments that I'll start with. One thing I enjoyed was simply it felt more self-aware. See, I think you and I may disagree here. I feel like the show leaned into the fun in this episode a little bit more. It was like, hey, we're gonna have some more action set pieces. We're gonna have this cyberpunk inside of Fennec, which anyone who's seen the concept art from Mandalorian knew that was kind of what was going on in there. So I don't know if folks are caught off guard by that. I thought it leaned a little bit more into the action kind of ramped up as far as pacing and tone. And I felt like, okay, the show's building up to this, these eventual conflicts. And I think it was more fun. That's the word. I thought it was more fun than some of the other episodes we've seen. I think 2 is still the best episode. I think 2 is the best episode, which is the episode where we see him really bond with the Tuskens and obviously do the raid and train. That's the best episode to me so far. But I thought this one just really leaned into okay, we're going to just have some fun here. And it's going to be kind of what more I expected from the Mandalorian, from the Book of Boba Fett. For me, a lot of the criticisms that folks have had has been, his characterization in the show, which you still might have. I felt like this episode really, again, aligned up more with what we kind of anticipated. He isn't soft by any means, but I don't like this idea. And I'm not saying you hold this, Ben. I'm just saying that there seems to be this idea that if he is, saving people or I don't know, talking more than just shooting first. I don't know where they're getting a lot of this from, that he's a good guy now, or they've changed. He's soft. I'm like, I never thought Boba Fett, he could be the best bounty hunter that's ever lived. I don't know why he has to be some heartless killer, or why he wouldn't be a little bit diplomatic, right? Especially in his older years.
Yeah.
If you've grown up in the crime syndicate at like 60, you're gonna be like, okay, I know how the game is played. Exactly what he said in this episode. I was very happy. I mean, he basically said, like, I'm tired of getting killed on these jobs. These bunch of morons know how to do it right. Like, I'm going to do it better. We're going to make a ton of money doing it. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Like, that's exactly what I'd expect an old Boba Fett to say. He's been at this too long. We've been seeing him on the run doing these jobs since he was a child in the Clone Wars, right? And so I just really like that they kind of address that, like, hey, here we go. I'm doing this because I can do it better. I'm tired of getting myself killed for, big fat huts who just don't care about me at all. I'm gonna do this better. I'm gonna do it more
I
efficiently.
like that part. Yeah.
I like
Where
that.
he
To
tries
me,
to explain his motivation and say, like,
exactly.
this is what I'm doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. I was very happy about that because I felt like it kind of puts to bed a lot of concerns. He had the meal with the other crime lords of the area, their houses of the area is the word I'm looking for. And whether the dialogue worked, we could talk about that. But I enjoyed the fact that he's got the Rancor underneath, right? He's immediately starting to do the threatening. He's sitting at the table, the claws come through. He doesn't move, right? Everyone jumps up. He's sitting there. He's got Crescent in there for presence. He's starting that mob bodyguard mentality. That's more, I think what people were expecting. And I think it's always been there, right? He knows when to flex his muscle. He knows not to. So I really enjoyed to see that kind of approach, right? I think a lot of fans thought he was kind of like, you're picking up these bikers in the last episode. What are you doing exactly? It's like, now the meat's here, right? Like he's kind of putting it down, which I enjoyed. I think I saw someone say he's more, I'm totally going to blank on my Godfather names here, but he's more Michael than the other brother, where it's like, he's a lot more diplomatic than you. He's not just wiping people out. He's trying to be a little more, I guess, classy in it. And I just like to see that a lot in the episode. I feel like with these Disney shows, I'm including Marvel there, know what you can achieve with your medium, know what your budget was, know what your audience is, and achieve it. I feel like this episode was like more what I expected, more fun, less. Let's start with your problems with the dough. I mean, let's walk through the episode. How does the episode open? Let me think through this. We open up on, do we start right in a flashback?
I think so. He's alone, right? He's there after kind of like a certain time passes after the tribe is decimated. He's there praising the situation, which I like. He's more sober. He's quiet. He's kind of digesting still what happens there. We see maybe even like he's morbid a little bit, mourning for the loss of the tribe. He's assessing the situation, trying to be a strategist. Like, hey, this is the Jabba's palace. Not tonight. We can't do it. I like the little bonding with Bantha there. How, like I mentioned in my review, that the fact that it's animatronic, I really enjoyed it. It brings that tangible feel to it. Things are still interesting when we meet Fennec Shand. I like that part as well, because they're contextualizing her a little bit. Like I mentioned in my review, I really enjoyed her in Bad Batch. And here they're finally starting to carve out a character. She's not a standalone piece in the background like a prop. They're trying to give her more lines. They're trying to describe what she's all about while Boba Fett rescues her. And I like the part with her cybernetic parts of the body. Not the kids. I still don't like the cyberpunk vibe to it. There's no relationship with Tatooine. I think there's a complete disconnect with the feel and look of.
I think they fit with Star Wars, but now at Tatooine. And I think you'd probably agree. Like, I could see them in another system, right? I could see them in the underworld of Coruscant, right? You could absolutely see them. They feel weird in Tatooine.
Yeah, I don't see those kids finding their way in the frontier world that Tatooine is.
Agreed.
And chilling there with their rich and expensive garments and clean bikes and like, oh, but there is no water, and complain about local problems. They feel out of place. I would have been much more at home if they said, well, these kids are just touring. They're like a frat kids who are like in college, and they're celebrating their recess time off from school, and they decide to hit this godforsaken planet and just hang out, right? But anyway, I liked what happens there with Fennec Shand. I was kind of like, okay, I'll let it slide. The parlor, the little guy with the dreadlocks, I'll let it go. I enjoy what happens with Fennec Shand. But then when we see the shootout, which felt so basic in the Jabba's palace, so rudimentary, and this is one of the biggest problems in the new Star Wars in general is the lack of memorable action scenes. It's a very Tolkien shootout. There's nothing particularly innovative or exciting about it. And when she starts punching these Gamorreans off the ship, that's what they lost me. I'm like, again, I'm watching this show on a very basic popcorn chewing level. I'm like, whatever, just hit me, make it interesting, right? Even in the most fundamental level, we're talking about one of the biggest filmmaking studios in Hollywood, Disney, and that's all you can muster up in your flagship show, flagship IP that is supposed to be so important. And then to put add salt to the injury, the scene that I felt was the most crucial to this entire show, to start showing how Boba Fett is now assuming control, right? And he's sitting there and the families are there, and the dialogue is just unbearable. He has, as he admits himself, he has nothing to offer as a bargaining chip, right? These people don't respect him. And then he would assume or ask them to be impartial if the Pikes come ahead and try to recruit them, right? It makes no freaking sense. It's so stupid. It's just dumb. I'm like,
okay. Well, in the show's defense,
I'm getting emotional here. And then when he's talking to Fennec Shand, and he's like, and I was left there to die under the twin sons of Tatooine. Like, yeah, we know you're on Tatooine, bro. We know you're there. Don't spell it out. It's like, who is this for? 3-year-olds? You can defend the show only so much and say, it's like, yeah, it's cool. It's like, at one point, you just kind of like, you got to pop that bubble and start talking about it. It's very lazy. It's all over the place. It doesn't have a clear vision. This episode, like the rest of the show itself, it doesn't have a voice. It doesn't know what it wants to be. Because when we saw, as you very well put, that the second episode, I agree, is the best one. This season should have either spent the entire time in the flashback living by the Tusken tribe to make it so interesting and so engaging, and maybe create a couple of characters that Boba Fett will later on permanently hire as his henchmen, right? Or what you do is, if you don't want to spend enough time in one place and you want to move along quickly, start with the first episode and continue with the rest of the 7 episodes where Boba Fett goes in, he gets the guy that he needs, Chrysanthemum here, Fennec Shand here, IG-88 here, Bosk here, wherever you need. Each episode is spent to assemble the Avengers, and then you go all out in the rest 3 episodes. You need some sort of focus. It's regardless of genre. I'm not looking for, Godfather level of writing. Right, it's obviously not Francis Ford Coppola, and you very well said that the show knows what it can accomplish. But I expected a little bit more from Star Wars and from Disney. Like, this is unforgivable. It just doesn't make any sense.
For me, in a couple areas. So if we go to the meal setting where we talk about the dialogue, I mean, at least, right, to the show's defense, they don't like side with him. Like, he doesn't have a lot to offer them, and they're like, yeah, you don't have anything to offer us. Why have the team then? I think the idea was, who are the faces of the house, kind of, who are the other houses, right? And who knows how that pays off, right? I mean, who knows if later they do, either he kills them or they come to his defense at some point. But, understood. I mean, at least it wasn't unbelievable. Like, he offered them nothing and they were like, okay, sounds good. We're in. They were basically like, yeah, at best we'll play neutral. And his logic being, they would probably take the chance with me over
what
the
kind
Pikes.
Of tactic is this? Like, could you please not side with them? But I don't have anything to offer you. But please don't do that.
Well, the logic is kind of like they'll probably
respect.
They'll probably overtake you. Like, the Pikes will probably kill you, and I probably won't because I don't have as much. I'm not as much of a threat as they are. Basically, it's kind of
and that's what I mean by Disneyfied Boba Fett. It's not the fact that I'm being impatient to try to find that Boba Fett that I have a personal bias towards, that I think he should be which way. Because I would agree with you guys where they were trying to lay things out. Look, let's get somewhere. He starts over here. He's a changed man. He's been there, done that. He doesn't want to be part of the Bounty Hunters Guild anymore, right? He wants to carve his own empire. They are taking you somewhere in the show. In terms of Boba Fett's transformation, it's a lot more believable. But the plot that he navigates, that river is very, very unsteady.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some. I felt this way about The Mandalorian as well, though, that some episodes just felt like they were there, right? Mandalorian season 1, especially, I felt like just kind of had some some episodes where it's like that episode was completely forgettable, just completely not memorable. And
Yeah.
I mean, we moved locations, but I didn't feel like we progressed anything meaningful. So, for me, when I think about the show in totality, as we've talked about, episode 2 was, I think, the best episode we've had so far. I think,
Yeah.
1 and 3 were both like, they're fine. Like they're passing. Yeah. I think 1 was probably better than 3. I think 3 is probably the weakest. We've talked about episode 3.
Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah. So do we know who's directed every episode so far?
I
Because
think he
they're
did
not.
1 and 3.
Did he do 1 and 3?
Yeah, I
Let's
think
see.
so.
Who did episode 4?
Yeah.
That's a great
And I
question.
did like his previous work. Like I mentioned before, I do enjoy From Dusk Till Dawn. I enjoy Desperado a lot. He at his height, he created some fun entertainment flicks.
The director was Kevin Tantron, who did some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fame. So someone I do not have a ton of background with. Interesting. That is very interesting. Now I gotta look and see who directed every episode. For me, I think the next 3 episodes will be very important for the legacy of the show. I think from
this episode was the most important one.
You think this was the most important one?
Yes, because you're midway. You're supposed to create all the stakes, create all the tension, and then start unraveling that thread.
That's funny because I feel like this episode didn't actually spend. So episode 1 was Robert Rodriguez, episode 2 was Steph Green, and episode 3 was Robert Rodriguez. So there you go. Yes, I've liked the Robert Rodriguez episodes the least of the 4. Funny enough. So I guess
I knew what I'm coming into. I knew the names. I knew the director. I'm like, Ben, dial your expectations. Just have fun with it.
One thing I want to say before I forget, it's totally off topic. I really like the theme for the show. That they use for the hey,
the one from the trailer.
Yeah, and they use it. I mean, in the episodes, like the Book of Boba Fett theme, like when they go to the credits, like the hey.
But it's the only memorable one. That's another issue.
Oh yeah, but I like it.
Fun theme.
Yeah, it fits him.
The only one.
Yeah, but it fits him really well. Which just a side note, I find that throughout the show, I'm like, that really was a good, simple, but really well executed. I think it is, and this is where I might find myself a minority, but like I felt the Mandalorian, and I've talked about it, I've been on the channel. I felt the Mandalorian season 1 was very weak. I think this is better than the Mandalorian season 1. I'm sorry, and the first 2 episodes of the Mandalorian season 1, the first 2 episodes of the Mandalorian season 1 were very good. I want to make it totally clear. The first 2 episodes and like the last 2, those 4 were really good. There were some good episodes. There was some stinkers I think people just overlook. Like there were so many episodes that felt like, I'm talking about the Mandalorian, that just felt like, okay, we're going over here. We're going to introduce this new side character who is totally forgettable in this really stupid mission they do. And I'll see you next week. At least with this one, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing Boba Fett every episode interact with these characters. I'm feeling more lived in. I'm feeling more established. It reminds me a little bit of Rebels, where you're sticking with the same crew for a same amount of time, as opposed to the Clone Wars, where you jumped around a lot in the early seasons to a point where you were like, you didn't really have a great cohesive storyline at all, right? Because it was kind of an anthology series in the beginning where it was hopping.
Can you do me a small favor?
Yeah.
I know it's unfair. We obviously going to have a longer conversation when the season ends, but at this stage, can you rate from 1 to 10 Mandalorian season 1, season 2, and then the Book of Boba Fett?
1 to 10. Okay. Yeah. Now, not to excuse myself here, but and you and I disagreed on this, but I do look at this sort of TV show lens.
Right.
Like if I rank a show a 9, it does not mean it's as good as Dune, right? I just look at those as separate, a 9 of Dune. I look at those as separate categories, just me personally. So I'll rank it with those in mind. I think Mandalorian season 1, as a total, I'm not talking about individual episodes, I think it was like a 6.5. A 6.5. I think season 2 was an 8. I'm going to give it an 8, which you don't agree with, I think, but I'm going to give it an 8. I would give this I'd give this like a 7. I'll give it like a 7 total. I think it's a little better. Now, look, if the last 2 episodes are dog doo-doo, we will be back here in a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, the show's a disaster, right? Yeah. But I felt like Mandalorian season 1 really benefited from what it was, which was this amazing looking character with this adorable little Grogu, returning to Star Wars on the planets we know, right? It was the first premiere show on Disney Plus. And I think if you rewatch it, it's just me personally, if you rewatch it, I don't enjoy it as much as season 2. Now, I am totally biased by my love for the animated shows and the prequels, and the second season paid so much fan service that. Like, I think the Ahsoka episode, I don't think there's a single episode in season 1 that gets close to the Ahsoka episode in season 2. It's a phenomenal episode. I mean, the way it's shot, I think the cinematography, I think the lighting, I love that episode, right? I don't think anything in season 1. I don't think anything in season 1 gets close, right? So like that alone just bumps the whole season. Even the more side questy episodes, like when they fight the ice spiders, I mean, some of the visuals there are just gorgeous, like sailing through the clouds as he's getting chased by the Rangers. I mean, there's just some really enjoyable things in season 2 that I felt like season 1 didn't have. I think of like I didn't like the AT episode where they go to that little village. Thought that was a snore.
Really? You didn't like it?
Didn't like that episode. Wow. I didn't like Cara Dune that much. I know it's something to do with, I'm not talking about the actress. I mean, like, I didn't really like the character very much when they introduced her. I felt like she didn't really add a lot to the show. And so every time they,
she was basically, to me, I view Fennec Shand in the same light. They're like, they could have done something with her if she stayed along.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, maybe so.
Not to be part of it anymore.
I have a soft spot for season 2 of The Mandalorian. And I see like Castle in chat liked a little bit less. He puts
I see his score too. Nice, Castle.
I felt like, and this is just me, I'm gonna be honest, this is just me being a little salty. You know when, and you might be experiencing this right now. Do you know when you see people freaking out about something and you're like, what are you guys watching? Like, how are you? And it almost makes you more bitter towards it because you're like, I don't get it. Like, you almost have to defend your position more because you're like, that was kind of me with Mando season 1. Is that was like, why does everyone like this so much? Like, I don't get it.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
My expectations for Mandalorian were much higher, just like the mistake I did with Star Wars sequels, because the trailer was phenomenal.
There was a really good trailer.
The trailer sold me a gritty, darker, mature, Dune-like show. I'm like, oh, dude, that's it. I don't even need to wait or hear anything else. That's it. The trailer is phenomenal. We're in for a ride. And then when you unwrap the show and start watching it, it's nothing of the sort. That's why.
That's totally fair. That's a great point. And I think as everyone in chat and to Ben and I don't think anything's personal. We're just talking our own opinions here. So you guys feel free to like whatever you like better in Star Wars. This is all personal opinions.
We're just chatting, just fans having fun.
And I think, and I mean this, first of all, I think Pedro Pascal is an amazing actor. I do. He has such a minimal part. I enjoy Tamara Morrison so much. And this is probably the prequel fan of me, as Ben knows, and fans of the channel know. I mean, I grew up obsessed with Jango Fett. I mean, I had his blue mask. I had his, silver little Nerf pistols, right? I love that character. Seeing him again, like, I just love seeing him on screen. It almost bumps it up above Mandalorian because I just find the lead actor so charismatic. Even when his dialogue's not great, you can't help but smile. Where Pedro, who's doing phenomenal, right? He doesn't have as much to work with. They keep him as kind of that strong silent type, which really works for that character. And by the way, I think, and Ben disagrees with me here, but I think at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, where you had your really big fan servicey moment, love it or not, I think what they've set up with the Mandalorian for the 3rd season could be really special. I think they've kind of done the groundwork to have a really great 3rd season. I think they could go a lot of really impressive ways with it. And I think someone in chat mentioned, it could have been, I think it was Jordan earlier, mentioned, how maybe the show was organized. Like the 1st season probably should have been more of like a backstory for Boba Fett, more of like filling in the gaps. And then we go to season 2 where he's more of the establishing his
we don't
kingdom.
Spend enough time on
and that's
anything.
fair.
It's like it's a salad of interesting ideas, but if the ingredients don't fit, then you don't have, right?
One thing I'll say before I pull up, because I think Cass has got a comment I want to pull up here. I said it in the first episode, and I still say it reminds me of a comic where it doesn't do as much. Like I love comics, as you guys know. I'm a giant Batman fan, so I've read all the High Republic comics. I've read some of the War of the Bounty Hunter comics. I've read the Vader comics. Like, I love comics. It's not an insult to comics, but they have a different style and a different level of storytelling. Not always. There's some masterpieces out there, but a lot of times you get a comic and it's kind of your more. There's not the issues are limited, the space is limited, and the stories don't go as deep. And this show to me feels like a comic run. It feels like a Boba Fett comic run. I mean, that's literally what it feels like to me. I'm not saying a great one. I'm saying that's what it feels like.
I want to make another comparison before you pull up that comment. Yeah, just leave it there for a second. I wanted to respond, but I would make a comparison to a short story and a novel, right? All shorts or all authors in general will tell you that short form is a lot harder.
Yes.
And when you have a master like Edgar Allan Poe or Robert E. Howard, one of my favorites. There is literally no room to waste. There's not a single sentence, not a single word that you could
Great
waste.
point.
You must be economical. You need to deliver an powerful story within pages, right?
Great point.
In a
Great
novel,
point.
you have more leeway. You could play around with a character there, with a mess up a chapter over there. You still have a room to to fix the course.
Yep.
Comic books are a short form,
Yep.
but even with that short form, you could notice where a storyteller is taking you somewhere, or whether somebody's wasting your time. And not to say that I know anything more about comic books than you and anyone else in the chat room. When you manage a comic book store like I have, like 13
Yep.
plus years,
Mhm.
and you start picking up on different authors, Marvel, you go to everything because customers need to know about these stories and I need to digest them. You start kind of like inadvertently picking up the language and understanding which storyline means business and which one is there just to divert your attention. It's about nothing. You can lose your audience within one panel of a comic book,
Yeah.
or you can completely capture them and make it interesting. That's the comparison I wanted to make. And Boba Fett, the show that is only 7 episodes long, it's not a novel, it's a short story. It needed to play its cards very strategically, very right. And I don't see anything there. I see a sandbox in which adults are playing, and there's several different minds who are trying to do different things, and it's going all over the place. Now, in regards to Castle's comment, I think that I have gotten a little tired of the way that Filoni has made these projects as ways to continue his characters and stories. I think, again, no disrespect to you, Castle. You are our fellow dear member. We love you here. We love all the commenting that you make. I personally feel that this mindset is what creates problems in the fandom and why fans get emotional with one another. We can't even begin to assume what's happening behind the curtain. Just because a character made it onto the screen, it doesn't mean it's Dave Filoni's will or Kathleen Kennedy's influence. We don't know. That's the simple fact that I want to say. And we have to also remember that these characters don't belong to Dave Filoni, right? The Clone Wars show was the brainchild of George Lucas. Let's go by official word, what is out there in the interviews, what's out there and behind the scenes. Dave Filoni constantly praises George Lucas. He even states that the Bad Batch characters themselves are a continuation of the creation that George Lucas has created in the final season of the Clone Wars series, which is based on the unfinished seasons, right? Let's go by that. Let's not begin to assume what Dave Filoni or anyone else is doing, because I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's constructive in any way, because we don't know. That's the thing.
I will. I pulled up Castle's next comment too, because I totally get where he's going with this. I'm excited for new writers and creatives for the other shows like Acolyte, Kenobi, Andor. I agree, right? I think the Favreau Filoni stuff, as someone who's enjoyed a lot of their work, I just praise. I like Book of Boba Fett, I think, better than a lot of folks. I like season 2 of The Mandalorian, I think, better than a lot of folks. However, I definitely think they fall into really similar style of stories in this live action space, where it feels, it just doesn't feel as bold as I'd like it, if that makes sense, right? As maybe as pushing the boundaries as much as I'd like. It doesn't feel. They all feel very samey, which is okay. I mean, we can have this Mandoverse with Boba Fett, Mandalorian, and they're kind of doing their adventures in Tatooine, and they have their own kind of style to it, their own fun. But as Ben has called out, we have to see something different in some of these future shows that have different vibes to them. Like Kenobi, I expect a totally different vibe. I expect a different tone. I expect a different message. I expect them to be very intentional.
Direction.
I think their logic was probably like, hey, Boba Fett is this awesome, legendary bounty hunter. We have a platform now to give him a show never existed before. Let's get Robert Rodriguez. Let's get this lovable actor, Tamir Morrison. Let's just go have some fun with this thing. Put it out in December, and fans are going to love it. I think that was and that's not an insult, by the way. That's not a bad thing. I've enjoyed it. Right. That to me was the message. I think Kenobi has a different legacy, a different goal, and I think Acolyte will as well. And I expect those shows to go different ways. So I look at Mando and Boba Fett as this kind of look. Jon Favreau, again, it's so funny to me when I talk about this Disney Civil War. Jon Favreau is a Disney they pull him out on everything. They've had him do The Lion King. They've had him do Spider-Man. or excuse me, star in Spider-Man. They've had him do the first Iron Man, a fantastic.
Jungle Book.
All those movies feel very samey to me. What's one thing you can say about all those movies? They're very safe, right? They
I would say
are
heartless. I
right.
would go further and say they're heartless. They feel like carbon copies of the material that existed before.
Okay, and that right, and so there's a place for him for his work, but I will support Castle in the sense it's like I'm also ready to see something a little new because these Star Wars shows have felt very samey, with the exception of the animated projects, which have been home runs. Okay, Bad Batch and Visions have been exceptional, right? These shows, to me, I could argue the biggest complaint has been they all feel very samey. Now, I am a firm believer in patience. I think, in my opinion, Ben and I disagree here, but I think Book of Boba Fett has gotten better, and I want to see where it goes. Sorry, I got distracted reading a comment here by Stickman talking about how he doesn't like how the creatures seem to be a little too friendly. Like the banthas and the rancors are kind of easily tameable. That's yeah. I mean, there's definitely something there. We all know we're getting a rancor in battle in one of these episodes, right? I mean, that's just what they're doing that for. That's what
it's a must.
They're doing for. But for me, like, let's see something different in the next show. I don't look at this.
Can we circle back to Kenobi for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's once again, we can be diplomatic, we can be friendly. You and I both agreed that the moment that Disney knocks on our door, we're going to show for them all freaking day. But
already,
right? There's so much where you can sugarcoat and kind of like you say like, well, we should be more fair and appreciate all the actors. And I don't know if it's a part of the generation or part of a mindset where it's like people sometimes feel like they're stepping on eggshells when they're simply expressing their mind. And my mind is, I probably will sound like one of these angry nerds, like the Star Wars fandom, but I expect more from Star Wars. There's no way to dance around it. If the Kenobi show has the same kind of level of direction and attention to it, I will be tearing it apart. I'll be like, what is this crap? Because sooner or later, you got to start naming things their proper names. Something is either good or it's not. When we discussed personal preference and opinion, that is an entirely different story, right? And when it comes to Castle's comment, I want to once again circle back to it. When we watch something like the Bad Batch, love or hate that show, now we can go full swing and discuss Dave Filoni. Who is the credit? Whose name is on each episode as the showrunner? Dave Filoni. Who is the guy who's supposed to be behind the wheel? Dave Filoni. If we dislike or like something, that's the guy that we go to, right? Because the name appears there. And, I feel that I always say on my videos that I enjoy the fact that Star Wars is going through this transformational period where it's trying to find a voice, where it's trying to reinvent Star Wars without George Lucas's supervision. And it's a good thing. And I applaud Disney for trying different directors like Robert Rodriguez, who I might not like, but you enjoy. You may not like, but Castle likes, right? That's the whole idea. It's not about me. It's not about what one fan says Star Wars should be. I'm never about that. But at the same time, when they're searching for that formula, it's like, guys, step your game up. Like, what's going on here? Why can't you create something like, the Winter Soldier and the Falcon? And the show has clearly more expensive production. It has more expensive script writers. It just feels more mature. It feels.
Did you like that show? Did you like the Winter
Soldier? Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
No.
I thought the show is.
All right, stream's over. No, I'm just kidding.
Regardless how I feel about both of these shows, I'll try to be as objective as I can be and like put my personal feelings aside. I feel that the Winter Soldier and the Falcon treats its subject matter with a lot more respect and a lot more maturity. And I felt that it's a lot more expertly told. Again, regardless of what I like or dislike about it, you can pick and choose and say, well, I like Tamara Morrison more. I like the fact that it has more animatronics and CGI and creatures and blah, 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 blah. Regardless how I feel about it, I just felt that Winter Soldier was a show that more seasoned. It had more mature approach. It didn't treat me like a dummy. and you feel like, oh, look, rankers, look, crime syndicates, look, Black Croissant, and so forth.
Well, I'll tell you. First of all, I see some folks in chat. Of course, you guys can like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm of course giving Ben a hard time. I did not enjoy that show. Not for the reasons that some folks didn't. I did not. I felt like the villain. I felt like it was very weak. I felt like the story. I felt like they looked at the Winter Soldier, which is probably Marvel's best movie, Captain America: Winter Soldier. Probably one of their most well constructed.
It's one of the best Marvel movies.
And I think they tried to like duplicate it with a lot less interesting like a lot less engaging compliment. That's what it kind of felt to me. It wasn't as smart as that. It kind of felt like they were trying to live there. It's not a terrible show or anything. It just wasn't my favorite. I enjoyed, for example, WandaVision and Loki more in certain parts. I thought WandaVision's ending was very weak. I might be in the minority there. And I felt like Loki had some really good moments and some really kind of anticlimactic moments. I feel like with this show, Book of Boba Fett, which I have enjoyed to this point, we will see how it keeps going. I think it was in no way an envelope pusher. It was in no way groundbreaking. It has been sometimes underwhelming, sometimes right on where we want it to be, like episode 2. We have 3 episodes left. We'll see where it ends. It might end with, if the last 3 episodes are really good, the whole conversation might change. But say, okay, there was some uneven direction there. They really need to refocus. I think Ben maybe made the argument we can both agree on the most, which is when you have only 7 episodes, you have to be very deliberate with your storytelling. And it felt like there was a lot of room for improvement there, where maybe it wasn't as focused as it should be. What we'll probably find if the last 3 episodes are good, this probably could have been a 4-part miniseries or a 5-part miniseries that was more focused. And they added a bunch of content to stretch it out to 7 episodes, because that happens, guys. It just is the nature of the streaming service world. There's episodes that don't hit. So we'll see how it changes. I think my reaction and my initial point, and this is not aimed at Ben, this is not aimed at you guys. I think the people who are claiming this in some way ruin Star Wars. I think that's overblown. I think
in no way it doesn't.
I think you could call it weaker Star Wars, but you're not going to tell me that it ruined it. And I think the one controversy came out yesterday that we're going to spend very little time talking about, because I don't think you and I have a lot to say, was that the ship was not referred to as Slave One. It was referred to as the Fire Spray class ship. I made a video about this months ago where the initial name change started to leak out. And my first argument was, I don't know if they're really going to change the name or if they're just doing that for their Lego toys the kids are buying. Like, you can see it right back there. I own the Boba Fett starship, right? I was thinking like, look, I don't care. And you could disagree with me, chat. You can disagree with Ben. Casual fans did not know that ship was called Slave One. They did not. I know.
But suddenly they care.
Right. So that was my one point, is that people really don't care. That's just that's first of all, I'll say this too. I'm not even talking about the origin of the word slavery or anything. I don't think the ship name Slave One is very cool. I'm sorry, I don't. So to me, it was a non-issue. It was a non-issue. That came up yesterday because he referred to the ship as my Fire Spray class starship. That kind of blew up on the internet today, as we knew it would. To me, that's such a non-issue. I understand there's over censoring, there's being overprotective, but if a company decides, you know what, we have this minor thing that's named Slave One, and the entire purpose of this thing is to sell toys to children, we're going to change it to Purple Dragon. Okay, to me, that's a non-starter for me, and I think whatever. So that to me is my one side on that drama. I am not passionate. If they, for example, changed something. I'm trying to think of it. If Palpatine became offensive in 40 years and they rechanged his name to Daddy Palp, right? Okay, that's a huge, part of it, but like a minor ship that only hardcore fans know that they changed because, and the explanation of Slave One, by the way, doesn't exist in canon. As far as that, the reason he named it Slave One is, my understanding is based on, at one point, I don't know if it was in some of the books, you might know better, in some of the comics, he was a slave at one point, and when he was freed, he named the ship Slave One as kind of an homage to that trial he went through. And that's fine. That could be very cool. If you enjoyed that story, that's totally fine. But to me, like, come on, who cares? Like, if the ship is cool, if the show is great, no one cares what the ship is called. That's my only point. Yeah. You can still like Slave One. You could still wish it was called Slave One, but to me, that's the least of the issues with the show. Even I, who like it, would put that so low on the bottom part of my problems. I don't know if you have anything to add, but that's kind of my 2 cents on the Slave One.
There's 2 sides of the coin. Number one, I personally never cared for the name. I think it's
Yeah,
stupid.
I do too. I think it's a
Slave
stupid
One.
name.
I don't know the origins of the name, even though I read like a tons of legends. It just sounds silly. Fire spray sounds a lot more militant. It sounds like badass. It's like, dude, I'm about to kick your ass. That's
And
what it
in the
sounds like.
scene, let me just say this: in the scene where he's gunning the Tuskens down, it looks like a fire spray. Like that name applies to that. Like it
That's the
fits
name,
totally well.
right?
Which it is the name of the class of ships. I understand, but it looks
Right.
like it. Like that's exactly what it looks like. Go ahead.
Here's another thing. I'm not gonna go into this whole woke agenda in Disney or non-Disney, but there's obvious cultural shift where we try to desensitize children from things like word slavery. I don't understand that. And
Mhm.
argument could be made that that's how you start changing the narrative, how you start affecting cultural consciousness, starting small and going big. Nazi Germany wasn't built in one night. That's how it was done. People were converted with simple words. They're transformed into something bigger. And the reason that I bring Nazi Germany, I'm a kid from Russia. I grew up in the 80s with the last years of Soviet Union, and we grew up watching war films. You saw Nazis, German soldiers, either portrayed by German actors or Russian actors, and Soviet Union made cinema about World War II. It's an important topic. It's part of our ugly history, but it's our history nonetheless, right? Some people have concern that, like, look, if you're going to change the word like slave one here, what's next,
Yeah. Mhm.
right?
Yep.
If indeed it becomes something like we're like, oh, now they're changing this now, and 10 years from now they're called not Star Wars but Star Conflicts, then we know we don't have a franchise anymore in our hands, right? That's the problem. I'm like, at this point, it's not an issue. I don't care. It's a stupid name. I like Fire Spray more. That's it.
It's kind of mine as well. I agree. I totally respect everyone's opinions who are like the word slave in itself does not have the connotation of what North America's history is, right? It doesn't have to mean that, but it doesn't mean anything good. Let's not pretend it means anything good,
Slave
right?
is not. At the end of the day, I don't think slave is the word that we should be excluding from language. Even from
Agreed.
you're not going to teach about slavery in public schools anymore. Like, why is that word offensive?
Of
I don't get
course.
it.
Yeah, completely agree there. But I think we both agree in the sense that it's like a
Marketing
the big
wise, it
issue.
makes sense.
Boom. I've been to Disney World recently, guys. They are selling toys out the wazoo, and companies can be very sensitive. And I'm with Ben. I don't think we want to take out any sort of negative or bad words, and not let kids learn, not let kids understand that. I'm never saying that, but also understand when a big company. Look, I've worked for big corporations. I'm sure Ben
Yeah.
has too. Companies are hyper diligent on not causing drama. You might not think that's the case because they seem to stir up so much drama,
Right.
but they are so deliberate in how you put their logo next to what words. Marketing
When this is
teams,
concerned, they have to look after themselves, of course.
they don't want their name associated with anything negative, right? That's just the age we're in. Whether people become too sensitive, that is definitely open for conversation. I think Ben and I are aligned here, which is we don't want to start removing words and centering words. In this case, I feel like this is purely a money decision to make it easier to market. At the end of the day, there's slavery in the Clone Wars, and there's slavery in Bad Batch. So Disney, I don't think is if they start removing those sorts of storylines where they can't even show it, like there's slave trading in the Bad Batch when they go to get Mushi, excuse me, the Rancor. Those are all Targaryen slavers.
Zygerian flavors, yeah.
So they aren't removing those characters from the show. They aren't removing the storylines. They're showing us, those are the villains and etc. In this case, I feel like they want to sell toys with, like they sold to me because I'm a sucker for Legos, and I think that's about it. That's my take on that drama. You guys feel free to disagree in the chat. Let us know your thoughts. Overall, I am more positive on Book of Boba Fett. Ben is more negative. Ben and I have very different styles. Ben is wrong, and I am right. I think the prequels are the best, and Ben likes those old dusty original trilogy films. So, that's the great
Star
thing about.
Conflict.
That's a great. I got to put some clickbait thing in the thumbnail, like Ben and I melt down on stream. Laser eyes. I got to start something here. It's good. To a big thing about Ben and I's channel though, and Jimmy here as well. I really encourage the conversation. I encourage folks to be able to talk about this stuff in the most manageable, clickbaity way as possible, where we don't go overboard one way or the other. There are things we like, things we don't, and we can still enjoy different different parts of Star Wars and still have good conversation. And I think that's very important. So
Look, if at the end of the day, you and I both walk away and forget about this show, but some kid somewhere in Poland grows up with this show, and he's like, "Oh my God, Boba Fett! Yeah, I
yeah,
used to have all the toys." They win. Star Wars wins. The fandom, the community wins when we have something like this. When somebody somewhere creates a meaningful memory with it.
I saw someone. I'm glad you brought that up, Ben, because I saw someone in my comments today that left a long comment, and I might need to pull it up at some point. And they basically talked about like, I really like seeing Boba Fett's story as someone who like lost their dad and how they had to learn to grow up on their own. And I think that really resonates with people like me who's lost my parents. I really like to see that character, and I think that's I say this all the time. The prequel trilogy didn't work well for me, but I know there are kids out there who loved it just as much as I love the prequels. And I was there buying the toys, like we talked about Jango Fett, and I was buying General Grievous wheel Lego with the green thing chasing behind him. Those memories matter. It's a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, you're right. There are some kids. There's probably I could see, families getting, and this is exactly what Disney wants. I can see families getting together on Wednesday nights and putting the show on and having a great time. That's what Disney's about. And that sometimes means we don't get the Dune level shows, right? But there's a whole lot of people out there that I know who don't love Dune like I do. There's different audiences out there, and this one hits kind of a different audience. So appreciate all the conversation about that. We spent a lot of time on Boba Fett. I think it was, for me, a good episode. And I'm looking forward to the next 3 episodes. I think I know what to expect from the show, but we'll see.
Well, more power to you, sir. I don't think I'll be joining this live stream anymore. Okay?
Maybe they'll
get the eyes. Okay.
I don't really want to see. I don't know. We've been rather spoilery, but we haven't gone into deep detail because I think folks who haven't seen the episode yet could still talk. There is a big tease at the end of the episode that I'm sure Ben hated. I imagined you hated that. That was kind of my read. Did you?
The music?
Yeah.
The
did you hate that or did you love that?
I don't care. I'm like, let's see. Okay. I'm whatever.
I was curious. I'm with you. I'm like, let's see how they do that. I mean, it could be cool. He had some, maybe it's just maybe the last 3 episodes are just 35 minutes of just one cut action scenes, and they're the best things we've ever seen.
I do have one last question before we close the topic. De-aged Harrison Ford, is he showing up at the end of the
season?
Would
be nutty. That would be wild. I don't know if I've heard a lot of people.
That's not the question I'm asking, but I'm asking focus here, sir. Okay, I'm sorry to be very adamant about this. Is he showing up or not? I want a yes or no answer. Okay.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
I think you might be right, but I don't know.
That'd be about $5.
No way, because I'm not confident in my answer. I'm not confident in my answer at all. It would be. I don't know how they would do it in a way.
Disney. It would be very Disney. They de-aged Mark Hamill.
They recreated Tarkin.
Yeah.
So you could do it.
$5.
What if he's like the last? What if he's like the last? What if he's like the last Avenger? Like he's the last in the Infinity Stone for Boba Fett. He's the last one he recruits in the final episode. Yeah. He's in there. That would be.
I want to rule with respect. I hunted this guy down. He was in Carbonite for a couple of years. Let me bring him back, because who best to have cover your back than your worst enemy?
There you go. Or they could have Alden Elmerick. I saw that from the Blue Pig.
That would be
actually kind of cool. I'd actually like that.
That's the point right there.
Yeah, I might give it a couple points just for that. If they did that, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford hates Star Wars, so I don't know if they could ever get him back. Was kind of my logic there, but he loves money, I'm sure. So there's that.
Yeah. Cha-ching.
Well, that was the big conversation topic of the night, but we had a couple other small things in the video game space. I am not going to bother sharing this trailer. It was 6 minutes long. It's a gameplay footage. Actually, maybe I'll pull it up and we'll just have it without audio in the background. Lego Star Wars. Are you a fan, Ben? Are you a fan, chat? Tell me, guys.
Oh, yeah. Huge fan. Are you?
Oh, of course. Who cannot love? Now, this game, to those who are not aware, I can't believe you wouldn't be by now. This game has been hyped as the ultimate Star Wars or ultimate Lego game, right? The ultimate experience. Every saga, every planet, oh my gosh, the red
hundreds of characters, right?
Hundreds of characters, planets. This has been teased as the biggest Star Wars Lego game, and it has been delayed so
several times, I think, right?
It has been delayed so much, and we have an official date. It's coming out in April 5th, I believe. April 5th. Can someone confirm that for me? We're getting it finally, and they announced a lot of the mechanics for the game today that I was very excited for. So they seem to have some. You can play. It seems like you can play them in any order, the trilogies in any order you want, which could be fun. I'd probably do release order. I think I'll do release order. I like to do release order. We also have I think
April 5th, supposedly is the
130
date, yeah.
April 5th. Okay. They have like 130 playable characters.
Nice.
Haven't we had
More open stages, right? The
Yes.
areas are supposed to be larger.
Yeah. To the blue pig. Haven't we had a ton of official dates?
Hoth is there. Oh,
yes, we have. Have you seen this yet, Ben?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so this was released today along with the date, and it's
Let me ask
showing
you the question: as the trailer rolls, which console did you first experience Legos on? Star Wars Lego.
Oh, that's a good question.
How old are you? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so I'm thinking when it comes to Lego Star Wars, I think they made like a Nintendo. I think I had a Nintendo DS, and I think they made a port for the DS, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, that's where I played it first. I think I had there, and then I think I had a PS3. I'm trying to remember what game it was, but I had a PS3 version. I'll be getting this on PS5. Will be my plan here. I will be playing this with, because I believe there's co-op. They changed the shooting mechanics, by the way, as you see this plane.
Yeah.
Like they've changed how you shoot. So they've done some work there. They also added, I think they added some more elaborate combos and cover. You see there's cover fire now.
I think that was one of the points that they wanted to delay the game because they felt that it wasn't innovative enough. Like they had the basic assets done.
Yeah. I think you're dead on. I think
original Xbox, nice.
Original Xbox for sure. I see someone with the Wii. I think I might have played on the Wii as well. I was a Nintendo kid growing up. Who wasn't, right? Everyone loved Nintendo growing up. And I still have a Switch.
On PS2, I think.
I have a Switch as well, so I still love Nintendo. I think you're right. They made an effort because there's some more lightsaber combos they've added in this game that I think have been in the ones past, as you can kind of see on the screen here. There's some abilities. The humor is always on point in these as well. I'm very excited for this. This should be a great time for everyone.
Did you ever play Disney Infinities, which is sort of similar to this?
No, I know what you're talking about, though. I absolutely.
You never played it? That's awesome. I have the whole set.
So, okay, very cool.
Yeah, huge fan of that.
So that's Lego, which I'm very hyped for. I'm trying to think how would even be the best way. It's not a real it's not a game that you really want to record yourself playing. I mean, I absolutely could, but it's just when you want to experience local co-op. That's what comes to me with these games. We
got to jump on online. I got to give you gamer tag.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, if they have multiplayer, we definitely. Yeah. Oh, we absolutely should play.
Do you play Battlefront 2?
I do. I own Battlefront 2. Yep. Nice. I was thinking there for a second. I was like, yes, I do. I haven't played it.
I need to install it, but I suck at shooter games. I get blasted. I'm the team member that you use as a human shield.
They still have quite the player base for Battlefront 2. When I get on, there's still a lot of people playing.
Did you hear the recent news that finally that EA is kind of letting it loose, and now their PC gamers are having a crazy way with it, in terms of mods?
Yeah, I recently saw. It's funny you say that. I recently saw a Gonk droid with Count Dooku's lightsaber. Someone using in the map, as they modded the Dooku to have be a Gonk. So it's like a Gonk running around.
Nice.
With the Count Dooku.
Nice.
Speaking of Gonks, we are going through a rebrand on the weekly show, right? The channel will still be Star Wars on High, but we're going to rename the show. We're going to think about expanding into the podcasting, uploading it audio only as well for folks who can't watch. So more to come there. Be tuned. We will release the official name of the show in the very near future. We definitely can't do it while Jimmy's out. But
the name of the show is Three Benjamins, because that's the only opinion that matters.
$300. It's $300.
Three Benjamins.
Three Benjamins. Now, before the show started, Ben, you were telling me about a rumor related to Jedi Fallen Order. Tell me about this. What's going on?
The greatest Star Wars video game ever created.
I agree.
I'm sorry, KOTOR fans. I'm a fan myself. You guys know I'm playing it for my channel. I love that game to death. But I have yet to see a Disney era story, whether it's comic books, novels, or movies, that was just as exceptional as the Fallen Order. That just blew me away, man.
Fallen Order is fantastic. From the story perspective, for a game based on a popular license at that. That's hard to do. I think I found the article. Let's pull it up here. This was a tweet. Now, this Tom Henderson I know nothing about, but I saw it from a lot of other sources. Pick this up. That they're preparing to reveal Fallen Order.
Right. It's supposed to be before the E3 show, and the rumor is that could be May 4th.
I think they're going to reveal it on May 4th is the rumor as part of their May
Mhm.
4th show. And then it will come out in quarter 4 of this year. So probably
Right.
November of this year, which should be
It's
awesome.
realistic because the original game came out in 2019, and I'm pretty sure after they saw the initial sales, they secretly started developing the game because they usually reveal the games like when it's a year or half a year before the release. So it's very realistic we could get it. At the worst, if they decide to delay it, it will probably be like the spring of next year.
We are in a crazy space, to Ben's point, where this might be one of the best Star Wars things we get all year. How crazy is
Yeah.
that? We could get a game because the game's that good. That's not an insult to their we have Kenobi coming out this year. We have more High Republic. You guys know I love. This could be the
Unannounced
best thing.
Ubisoft open world game is coming out.
And of course, well, okay. Eclipse is coming out like sometime this decade. We'll see, if that ever, how long that takes to get out. Games take so long to get out these days, but this could be one of the best things. Castle called something out here as well. I'll pull up here about the game saying, the level design wasn't really my favorite. You should revisit on the PS5. They did have a PS5 update because I've downloaded it as well. I understand it's what's funny about Fallen Order is I can kind of empathize where the gameplay to me is not the best part of the game. It really is. The story is, I find that gripping, and I love just traveling to different worlds and to the different places and learning, about more about Cal. To me, that's like the high point of the game. It has that, I'll call it Dark Souls light vibe to it. Where
that's what everyone calls it.
It's Dark Souls light.
The respawning stormtroopers didn't make any sense, but the lightsaber itself was the only way like I felt was special weapon, right? Even in the Knights of the Old Republic, when you play, they look like rave party sticks, like bzz, 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 you know what I mean? There's they don't have that weight when you play the Fallen Order. Yeah,
totally agree. You're dead on. That's the best way to put it. Weight, that kind of expectation you have there. So, when does KOTOR come out? Nick asked. That's a good question. The KOTOR remake. Have they even announced the date for that?
Give it 5 years.
I'll look it up right now.
Give it 5 years at least.
Yeah,
it'll be Final Fantasy VII remake, but boy, was it worth the 5-year wait.
I'm so excited for the KOTOR remake. As everyone knows, I've never beaten the original KOTOR. Flame me in the comments. I will be playing that through my PS5. I'm so excited. I know a lot about the story. I have never experienced the full game, and man, if they can maximize it as far as visuals and lean into the console audience, who a lot of folks, especially on the PlayStation side, haven't been able to experience KOTOR before. If you've been like a PlayStation gamer your whole life, you've never had KOTOR. So, I'm extremely.
All right, you saw that little snippet trailer, right? How Revan looks like in that snippet. Yeah. If that's Unreal Engine 5, I want the whole game to look like that.
Oh my gosh. We can dream, right?
Yeah, man.
Star Wars games are in a good spot. They're on the come up. They were not at first with Battlefront, but we are on the revenge tour now. We are coming back. I'm very excited about it. Outside of that, for me this week, it was a lighter news week. I would say we've had more High Republic books that you guys know I reviewed. Fallen Star, which I really enjoyed. I know I even saw some folks in chat today say it wasn't their favorite of the series. I said it in my review. For me, I kind of like slow burn, kind of tension-filled stories. It reminds me very much if Fallen Star is in the Alien series. It's Alien, The Rising Storm is Aliens, right? That's kind of how I'd compare them, right? And Alien is a very slow burn, tension-filled movie, which I tend to like. I tend to like those.
Yeah.
What else is on the radar, Ben? What else have you been doing Star Wars related this week? I love the new setup. I know folks have been saying it in chat. You have an amazing
man. Thank you.
Background. It's been great.
I still want to keep decking it out. It's a work in progress. But I did something similar when you and Jim are guys tackling the High Republic. I'm obviously behind on my reading because I just don't want to force the book down my throat and be like, oh, I need to rush for the review. I want to enjoy it at my own time and read it. But I've been recently started listening. I followed suit. I was inspired by you, and I started doing the audiobook revisit of the New Jedi Order. And I just started chatting about it with Meg from Meg Reviews. Yeah. So Meg went on this journey to reread the entire 20-book series of the New Jedi Order. 19 books, I'm sorry.
Yep.
And after she finished, I was following up on her reviews, and it was so exciting. And we just launched our first podcast. We're going to basically tackle each trilogy or duology on the books in order. So we started doing that. And it's interesting because I was thinking of you guys as you were doing your High Republic stuff, because it gave me a thought that these new authors either must be directly influenced or somehow inspired with the New Jedi Order, because in 4 short years, right, they cranked out 90 novels, different authors working in concert. And like you mentioned about the review of this latest book, Fallen Star, the interesting part of the New Jedi Order was it hired writers with different skill sets. Sometimes you would have an entire book which focuses on building that tension and character conflicts being resolved. And then you jump in another book like Michael Stackpole, and he will give you that high octane action. They would kind of like change roles and complement one another. That's what Meg and I, as both fans of the High Republic, would assume and hope they do in this series, is put different emphasis on each and different book. Like, for example, if this book didn't sit well, we'd be like, it was a slower pace for me, then you can look forward to the next book.
Yeah. And there's definitely, to those fans who didn't like it as much, there definitely is some slow moments. There's some drag. I felt like there was some, I think the High Republic, one of the challenges they have now is balancing so many characters. We've been introduced to so many characters. How do you keep those storylines going and interesting? There's that tension. And I know, it's bringing up, I know Jimmy has been talking about reading through the New Jedi Order. I don't think he's ever read it through fully, and he wanted to read it through this year. So yeah, that'll be fun to see. You just reminded me though of some news. It wasn't exactly related, but just you talking.
Yeah.
Bad Batch season 2. This
That's
is in the Disney Insider issue from this month, spring 2022.
Oh, man. Oh my God.
This is from the issue. You guys can tell this is from a magazine that is not been officially announced, but it is in print. It'll be coming out spring 2022, which I think makes a ton of sense. I expect that might launch on May the 4th again, just like season 1.
Yeah.
And Ben and I were huge fans of the first season.
Rebels and the Bad Batch, once again, and the Clone Wars show are the best things in Star Wars ever. Those are just great. Immaculate.
I'm rewatching Rebels right now. You see that, Ben?
You are right. With you're watching with your
wife,
right?
Mm-hmm, yep. And I watched Clone Wars last year through.
What season are you guys on?
We're on season 1. I mean, we just started in January. Like, we just started in the new year. It was like, let's do it this new year. That's great. I haven't watched the Rebels in a long time, especially the early seasons.
I want to. I'm watching Ewoks right now. Actually.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I'm loving it. I wish they did like a HD remaster of episodes. You could tell they're like from tape to either VHS tapes or television broadcast. They're a little bit lower resolution, but man, it's fun as hell. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Bad Batch to me also got heavy criticism, and this one really surprised me. A lot of folks did not like the Bad Batch, and I found that to be just crazy. I mean, you and I talked about this a lot. I think it was so effective. I mean, yeah, there were episodes that weren't as solid as other, or might have dragged, and we might have wanted to see, more movement. Some episodes felt like they might have kind of just existed, right? But overall, and I'll get the Bad Batch background up here. Overall, I thought the Bad Batch was just extremely solid. I'm really excited for season 2. Will be on my, I mean, golly, if we get a solid second season, and then we also have Kenobi this year, and we also get a new Fallen Order game, I mean, this year could continue to deliver some wins. I really hope that's the case. I hope
I like the Bad Batch so much. It's, again, you could look and kind of criticize individual episodes, but when you assemble them all together as chapters of one single book, this is what I hope Boba Fett can eventually learn from and do further on in Mandalorian the next season and so forth. I felt that each episode continued to telling this story. Each episode serves its purpose, even if it wasn't action-packed. We shouldn't always expect to see either action or overwhelming exposition. It needs balance. And I feel like Dave Filoni, again, the guy we can pin to the show, right? Because his name is on the showrunner's seat. He doesn't depend on high octane action. He doesn't depend on cameos. He doesn't depend on controversial moves. Everything that he does leads you somewhere. It takes us. Do you remember how Cad Bane comes out in that show?
Whoa, Castle just said he hasn't finished it. You just spoiled it for him now.
What's that? Oh,
that's what Castle said he finished it.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Crap.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Castle.
Castle, hey, we love Castle, but he's missed his opportunity to avoid spoilers. It's over a year later.
You had your time. Sorry, we love you, but Cad Bane, dude, the way that he shows up, it's not there.
Great scene.
Hey, by the way, I survived. It's like no. Things are happening here. This girl is important. Something. You know what I mean? There's context, there's thought put into it. Even within the span of a single episode, you understand why he's there. And I love that. There's intent behind everything.
Well, I'm hoping it returns. It returns in spring. I know it's going to return. I hope it returns in spring. I felt that was such. I think you and I both agreed. It came out and then it lasted months of every week we had something to look forward to, and we went on that several month journey with the crew. And I'd love to do that again this year. I think the Bad Batch is great. I want to see them continue to make more animated shows. We've talked about on past streams, Ben, the possibility for Tales of the Jedi as an animated show seems to maybe be a direction they're going. So could be a lot here. Could be a lot of excitement on the horizon.
Oh my God! Don't even mention that name in vain. This is sick. This is religion. This is like, oh my God.
We talked about it. I know it was it was so surprising for me, but so glorious nonetheless.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the week in Star Wars. But I'm just going to call it some other nerdy things as I was going through over here. We had a trailer for the new Lord of the Rings series. I don't know if you saw this yet. The Amazon put out their
there's a trailer?
There is a teaser. There's a teaser. I won't show it here, but you can go watch that.
Nice.
What's cool about this trailer?
This isn't the teaser, right?
This is the teaser you're seeing right now.
Oh, this is the teaser.
What's cool about the teaser is this is no CGI. It's all practical effects.
Okay.
So all this fire and everything, they did it, and they show you how they filmed it and like a behind the scenes.
I don't know, man. After that Wheel of Time 2 episodes, they burned me so deep. I don't know. Expectations, bang, they're lowered.
Hey, where your expectation should be is for the Batman. They should be super high. Tonight they're releasing the theme for him at like midnight my time or midnight Eastern.
Hyping everybody up.
I'm so hyped, and they announced the runtime is 2 hours.
Okay, what do you not want the Batman movie to be?
It looks so good. I already know what it's. I already know the way they're going, right? So
what don't you want it to be? What it can't be for you? I don't want it to be a Chris Nolan ripoff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Story, Nolan focused on an action version of Batman. I get it. I don't want it to be another ass beater kind of version of Batman.
It can't. The Riddler has to be impactful. The Riddler can't just be like a stop measure. Like I hate Batman has such a strong rogues gallery, and we're getting a Riddler performance which we haven't seen in a long time. We've seen a lot of Jokers, right? We've seen a lot of Two-Face and Penguin. Of course, we've seen Riddler, but this Riddler to me looks like it could be really something great, and so he has to be impactful. Like it's just that to me is like the biggest thing I'm excited for. But the movie's gonna be like 3 hours long, people. So that was announced today. It's like 2 hours and 47 minutes. Without credits, which is going to be, I'm excited. Sorry to get us off topic there as we wrap the show up.
No.
That's on
it all plays into Star Wars.
That's on the nerd radar for me. Well, folks,
can I trigger you a little bit before you leave?
Yeah, of course.
Let me just leave you with that thought that you're going to fume and like be angry about overnight. Star Wars prequels didn't do what the original trilogy did for its generation. I think Lord of the Rings became its substitute. Would you agree or not?
And that's kind of the end of the show. Looks like Ben had to leave early with that terrible. No, for me, yeah, I understand what you mean, right? And I think
but would you say that like Lord of the Rings took the spotlight as the trilogy of that decade?
Probably, yeah. Or Harry Potter's different, but Harry Potter was kind of very impactful to my generation as well.
Yeah, of course.
That I think of.
What, 7, 8 films?
Mm-hmm. Golly, yeah. Was it 9? Because it's 7 books, 8 movies because they did 2-part. I actually reread the Harry Potter books recently, like within the last 5 years. I just bought them.
I got the whole box.
They're good. The books are way better than the movies are good, but the books are better, of course. Right?
I saw the first 2 films.
Good because good. The books are better. They're both good. I'm not saying the movies are bad. The books are better though.
Yeah.
You just get so much context. What I really love about the books, they feel like a full year with the kids, like through the school year. I love that kind of completeness every year. I just love that when I was reading it. I don't know. That sounds silly, but I think that's the week in Star Wars. Ben, anything else related we got to talk about today?
Look, I think we talked about enough. We covered Legos. We talked about Fallen Order. We settled on the idea that my opinion is more important, and I know a lot more about directing, acting, filmmaking.
That's right.
I'm the director.
You are. That's it.
As I like to say with my friend, I am the master, and you're the Padawan.
You live in the high entertainment capital of New York City. So you're
Right.
in the area. I mean, I'm out in the Midwest. I'm a backwoods hillbilly. So what do I know? What do I know? Make sure you go to the channel, guys, and check out the logo and the banner that Ben made for my channel. Give him some positive feedback, or message me privately and tell me it sucks, and we'll change it back to what it was. But
yeah, Josh promised to compensate me once I open up my Patreon. He said it'll be a generous
I'll be the
donation.
first one. I'll be the first Patreon. Very good. Well, thank you guys for stopping by. We'll be back again next week, hopefully with Jimmy, as we continue to keep him in our thoughts there. So thank you guys again. Appreciate all your feedback in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you guys again.
See you
very
later,
soon.
guys.